All right.
Yeah. Welcome to our webinar on NCF by Skillveda. Skillveda is a unit of Mavisha Foundation, which is empowering individuals through skill development, training, and opportunities. We are thrilled to have our esteemed trainer, Miss Banisha Besnet, a CBSE resource person and working as a principal in the Budding Brains International School, Ludhiana. With more than 18 years of experience in education sector to share her knowledge and insights. Yeah, welcome Manisha ji.
Thank you, Tingle ma'am. Thank you very much. Good evening, all the participants, the educators, the policymakers over here. I extend a warm welcome to all of you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Arvinda ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening to everyone.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. So, Twinkle ji, can we start with it?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, dear participants, so today the webinar is focused on National Curriculum Framework for School Education. So as you can see the first screen, the first slide. So moving ahead. All right. So this national education policy, it's a very common term for all of us, right? For the educators who are involved in school education as well as, like higher education also. So this is a very, ambitious policy document which aims to transform our education system, starting from the foundational stage, from the age 3 to higher education. And it makes a very clear recommendations for education at all levels. So, national education policy, it's a vision that envisages to transform the education system of India to make it multidisciplinary, flexible, and aligned with the global best practices. Now, how to implement the vision of national education policy? So here, the government came with the National Curriculum Framework. So as you can read on the screen, National Curriculum Framework, NCF 2023, is a comprehensive document that provides a roadmap for the improvement of education in India. It is designed with a view of child-centered learning and holistic development, which are essential to prepare students for the challenges of the 21st century. So I would like to ask a question to my participants. What do you understand by the holistic development? See, I want this webinar to be engaging. I want you to participate in it so that we have more discussion and we can explore this topic and this policy or this framework, in depth.
Ma'am, may I answer? I'm Riganka Chaudhary.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, holistic development in education terms is basically the growth of a student's physical, mental, social, emotional, intellectual aspects. It's basically using the curriculum and the syllabus, activities, experiential learning to create and help nurture a child so that he's skilled enough to handle the world.
Very well said. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Very well said. I suppose you have just provided the crux of the National Curriculum Framework in your statement. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity.
Well, so moving ahead, the NCF 2023 is one of the key components of NEP 2020. It's basically the tool, that enables us and implements the transformation of the school education with respect to the aim, principles, and approach being to redesign and update the educational structure in schools as per the NEP 2020. So as we know that NEP 2020 is a transformative policy, right? Which envisions an education system that is holistic, it is multidisciplinary, right? which ensures that the education is inclusive and accessible for all the learners. So NCF is a tool which helps us to implement all the visions set by NEP 2020. So let's delve into the history of NEP and NCF. The first NEP was introduced in 1968. Then it was revised in 1986, updated in 1992. And after a long gap, in 2020, we got the new NEP, National Education Policy. And this is a transformative shift in our education system. So to implement NEP, we have corresponding NCF also. That was introduced in 1975, then revised in 1988. Then we had in 2000, 2005, and the recent one is 2023. So NCF 2023, it aligns with the NEP 2020. So looking at the roadmap of NCF, which was in 1975, then 1988, 2000, 2005, and 2023. What were the key areas that are being highlighted here? So our focus is on NCF 2023, which focuses on competency-based education. Well, we'll take up in our webinar the other, like the guidelines, the implementations, or the recommendations of NCF. So moving ahead, because the NEP and NCF, we are taking up all together, we need to understand, what is the difference in NEP and NCF, right? So here, I ask questions from the participants. As I have written, you can see on the screen that I've said that NEP is a vision and NCF is the mission, right? So could anyone please delve into this? What is the difference between vision and mission? Yes, dear participants.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. Arshi this side.
Good
Vision
evening,
is a long-term, aim, and mission is a very short-term goal. This, I think, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your input. I'm looking forward to more responses.
May I answer?
Yes,
May I please?
Please, ma'am.
Somebody before me?
NEP means a mandatory part of curriculum.
Yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. NEP means it's a mandatory part, and NCF means it's a compulsory, I think.
Okay. All right.
Compulsory subject in the classes.
Yes.
Ma'am, NEP is basically the framework for India's education system.
Okay.
And NCF is a set of guidelines as to how to implement that framework.
Okay. Actually, ma'am, we are discussing that. My question was, what's the difference between vision and mission? As you can see in the screen, that I have, bifurcated NEP as a vision and NCF as mission. So I'm focusing on that.
Ma'am, vision is a short-term goal, and mission is a longer goals which we have to cover 1 year by year. I mean, vision is a short-term goal, and mission is long-term goals, ma'am.
Okay. Thank
Ma'am,
you, sir. Thank you,
as
Vinod, sir.
per me, a vision describes an organization's long-time goals, while mission describes how to achieve those goals.
Very well said, ma'am. Thank you so much. I was looking for this answer. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So vision is what? Vision is a long-term goals, it's a future goals. It is future oriented, and mission is it is a pathway. It is how to achieve those goals, right? So it is present oriented. Vision is a future oriented and mission is present oriented, right? So, and NEP is what? It is a guiding principles, it's a policy that which shows that we need to bring the changes in our education system, right? However, NCF provides us the practical guidelines that how to implement that. how to achieve those visions which are set by NEP. Right? That makes sense, you know? All right. So, Shri Dharmendra Pradhan Ji, Union Education Minister, said that the National Education Policy 2020 is the philosophy and National Curriculum Framework is the pathway. And the mandate document release on date 23rd August 2023 is the constitution to champion the changing demands of the 21st century and positively impact the future. So the statement being given by Shri Dharmendra Pradhan Ji, the Union Education Minister, clarifies that what actually is a national education policy and national curriculum framework. Fine, there was a mandate which was issued on 23rd August 2023. This was basically the guidelines, you know, to frame the NCF. And it is national education policy. It's a policy, it's a philosophy, right? That shows the transformation in the education system of India. And how to achieve that, the pathway is our national curriculum framework. And how to frame that pathway, that was being provided by the mandate document, which was issued on 23rd August 2023. Any question, any queries till now? All right. So as we know that NCF aligns with NEP 2020. So it is very important to understand what are the key recommendations of NEP 2020. What are the visions set by NEP 2020 for the school education, on the basis of which the NCF has been drafted. All right, the first one is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 stage design. Anybody would like to, you know, like share upon this? What is the stage? What is this division about 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4?
Ma'am, this is like foundation stage.
Very good.
5 plus then 3 is primary stage, ma'am, till class 5. And then 6 to 8 is middle stage, and secondary and senior secondary stage comes 4, 1.
Yes,
This is called
thank
5
you so
plus
much.
3 plus 3 plus 4.
Thank you so much, sir. Vinod sir, thank you. Right. This is how the schooling has been divided into 4 stages. The first stage is the foundational stage, that is from, which includes Balvatika and grade 1st and 2nd. Balvatika refers to our nursery, LKG and UKG. That is the foundational stage, comprises of the age group from 3 to 8. The next stage comes 3 years. That is the preparatory stage, which includes a grade 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right? That is called as preparatory stage. It includes the children from the age group 8 to 11. Then the next stage, that is the middle stage, grade 6th, 7th, and 8th comes under this stage. It includes the children from age 11 to 14. The next stage comes, that is the secondary stage, which includes a grade 9, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and has the children between the age group from 14 to 18. So the whole schooling system has been divided into these 4 stages. Now, NEP 2020 really focuses on early childhood care and education because it lays the foundation for the future schooling. So it focuses that there should be a holistic curriculum for early childhood care and education, where we need to focus on the different developmental domains and the social and ethical development of the child. The next key highlight is foundational literacy and numeracy. Anybody would like to share upon this? Well, this focuses
Ma'am,
on
how
that.
to,
Yes,
ma'am, yeah, how to read, and do the basic mathematics and calculation.
yes. So this is like to lay the foundation for the future learning. Then next comes our curricular aims. So curricular aims is basically what the goals that we want to achieve as far as our curriculum is concerned, the content, the pedagogies, the assessments, our TLMs, so that comes within the curricular aims. It has to be holistic, which should focus on the well-rounded development of the learners. The next focus is on our multidisciplinary, holistic, and integrated education. So, can anybody would like to, share the opinion on multidisciplinary education?
Ma'am, basically connecting all the subjects. Like suppose if I give a
Ma'am,
project in
connecting with
English,
different subjects.
Yeah,
All
one
the
at
subjects should be included in one, that is called a multidisciplinary. If we are taking only one topic and maths, science, SST, Hindi, English, all are based on that topic, that is called a multidisciplinary project.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. So it means here that we are not setting the rigid subject boundaries. Fine, we are integrating the different subjects, may it be math, science, social sciences, art, humanities, sports, or you can say physical education, to create a well-rounded learning experience, right? And holistic, again, we refer to what the overall development, not only taking care of the academics, but about the physical development of the child, social, emotional, well-being also being taken care of. The next point is on reduced curriculum content, right? So the policy suggests that the content should be reduced to the core essentials so that there should be focus on the concept understanding and enhancing the competencies of the students. Then comes our flexibility and choice in the secondary stage. Many of you might be aware that at the secondary stage, the students have the choice to take up the subjects of their interest. The different subjects have been categorized into different groups. So it's not that presently if the child wants to study physics and he cannot take up music. So with physics, he can take the vocational subjects, he can take other subjects like music, he can take up the business studies as well. So this flexibility has been provided to the students at the secondary stage. At present, it is in grade 11th and 12th. And then gradually it would be introduced in grade 9th and 10th as well. Another is integrating the vocational education. Nowadays, a lot of focus is there in enhancing the skills of the students, the vocational skills of the students, to make them competent, in job market. Fine, so they can get the vocational education. Vocational education has been integrated into the mainstream education. Then comes the multilingualism. We know that India is a country where multiple languages, many languages are being spoken, to make the students have pride on the culture of India, the heritage of India, and to be proud of that India is a country where multiple languages are being spoken. So NEP focuses on multilingualism. Fine, that the children should respect that. Again, there is another cognitive benefit also of learning different languages. Another is rootedness in India. That means the vision of this policy, NEP 2020, it wants that our students, the learners, should be deep-rooted into the Indian culture and the tradition. They should be proud of that, not only in thoughts, but in their spirits, in their intellect, and in their deeds as well. So these are the key highlights. Very briefly, like I have discussed with you, the main recommendation, the highlights of NEP 2020. And it is important to discuss because our NCF is aligned to NEP 2020 to understand that how NCF has been framed and what are its, recommendation and implementation, we need to have an idea about the highlights of NEP or recommendations of NEP 2020. Any questions till now? Anything, want to share? Anybody would like to share anything?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, actually, I just want that can you please re-explain point number 1, that is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 stage. Although I know, but I have some confusion. And the another point is that is the flexibility and the choice of secondary stage. These 2 points in nutshell, ma'am, please.
Okay, sure, ma'am, definitely. Ma'am, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 is basically the schooling system that is being divided into different stage. That is 5 years being devoted to the foundational stage. Foundational stage includes the classes from grade nursery to grade 2nd. It's basically for the age group from year 3 to 8. All right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then next is 3. 3 years, that is called as our preparatory stage. Preparatory stage will includes a grade 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And the children of age group from 8 to 11 years come under this stage.
Okay.
Next 3 years, that is the middle stage, which includes a grade 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Okay.
And the age group is from 11 years to 14 years.
All right.
And the last stage is the secondary stage, which includes the classes grade 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Mm.
And the age group is from 14 to 18.
All right.
All right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what other thing that you wanted to discuss about?
That is choice in the secondary stage. I hope then the secondary stage is given 9, 10th, 11, 12. So the choices are being now give according to NEP 2020 will be given from 9th onwards.
Yes, ma'am. They can, like in 11th, it has already been 11th, 12th,
Yeah.
and grade 11th and 12th, it's already being introduced, right?
Yes.
The children can, there are basically being categorized into 4 groups. Like I will take up that and, further that I'll take up how the group is being divided, right? So
All
we'll
right.
discuss that further. All
Yeah,
right, ma'am?
sure, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure, ma'am. So there is a paradigm shift in NEP 2020 that guides the NCF, right? So we can know that, we all know that NEP is what it is, very transformative, right? There is, transformation has been in our, curriculum, in our assessment practices, then in the content, in the pedagogy, sorry. So there is transition through multidisciplinary and holistic education. This we have already discussed about multidisciplinary and holistic education, where the focus is on the overall development of the child and integrating the different subjects, that is multidisciplinary approach of teaching learning. Then critical and emphasis on the critical analytical thinking rather than rote learning, So the shift has been from the rote learning to the critical and analytical thinking, that we want that the children should develop the critical and analytical thinking. And next is there is a change in the curricular and pedagogical structure also. As there are different stages, so the curriculum is also being designed as per the different stages of the schooling. Similarly, the pedagogy would be also according to the different stages. Like for the foundational stage, it would be different. For the preparatory stage, middle stage, and secondary stage. So different pedagogies the teachers have to adapt, according to the NCF. So here we come to the objective of NCF, right? So why is it being implemented? NCF, as we said, what is the vision, to transform the education system of India. So the objective of NCF is to modernize the education system. We need to focus on the realistic changes happening in the real world, so that our children should be competent enough, to face the challenges of the real world. For that, the NCF suggests that they should develop the critical thinking, problem solving, 21st century skills. The focus is on 21st century skills, right? The next objective is to update to the curriculum. So there is a change in the curriculum also, like we have, as we discussed, that the students have been provided with the wide range of subjects to choose from. And then strong importance on teachers. There is a lot of focus on the professional development of the teachers also, because NCF can be successfully implemented only when our teachers are competent to do that. So there is a strong importance on teachers, the role of the teachers, in implementation of NCF. The next is defining the roles of stakeholders. So it's basically, to make the NCF successful or to implement it successfully, the onus lies not only on the teachers, but it is on the school system, it is on the parents, it's on the community as well. And the next objective is creating a better innovation, because there is a lot of focus on the technology driven teaching, which basically focus on creating the innovation. So moving ahead, might be aware that NCF, we have two NCF. That is, the first one is the National Curriculum Framework for Early Childhood Care and Education. That is for the foundational stage, which was introduced on, I think it was introduced on 23rd August 10th October 2022. It was introduced on 10th October 2022, and then came on 23rd August 2023, our NCF for school education, which integrated NCF for foundational stage. And NCF for teacher education and NCF for the adult education is yet to come. Fine, we are waiting for it. Let's see what, it's being proposed in that. Presently, we have NCF for the school education, which integrates the NCF for foundational stage as well. Is any question, any queries still here? All right, I'll move
Ma'am,
ahead.
I have a query.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, the query is this, that already NCF 2020, it's a 2024, right? So there are a lot of schools which are still struggling with providing a wide range of choices, because we are not ready for it, right? If the children are like opting for subjects, so how can deal with it?
Ma'am, your question is what that key, like if the, students want to opt from the diverse, for diverse
Ranges of choice.
subjects, So how to implement that? How to introduce that in the school?
Yes, ma'am. We are doing it, but still there are a lot of problem in practically. It is not possible that we are offering a wide range of choices, but the teachers are not
Yeah.
available, and the timetable creation is a big headache.
I do agree to that, ma'am. There are hitches in creating the timetable, that most of the school face that, the schools are not able to, provide the wide range of subjects, but still we need to, at least, a few subjects that we can provide with. And here, ma'am, then I would suggest to you that sometimes we face the problem with the teachers, we can't have many teachers for that. So what we can do is that we can, share our resources with the nearby schools, the CBSE schools, maybe, they can, I know, but many of the schools might refuse to that also. But that is what it is, collaboration, with collaborative efforts, we can implement that. And definitely, I agree with you that there is problem in, framing the timetable because of wide range of subjects available for the students.
Ma'am, this side, Nitin sir.
I can, satisfy your query.
Thank you, ma'am. What we can say, we are still struggling with it.
Ma'am, this seeks for the practical implication, you know.
Yeah, right, ma'am. Right.
Ma'am, question is here that how a teacher of chemistry can teach history. That is a
No,
problem.
sir. No, sir. It is not like that. A teacher of, you know, chemistry is going to teach history. The thing that you need to, you know, hire an history teacher only. That is there.
Then
So,
teachers cannot be
like the
multitasking.
schools which are not offering all the four, you know, like streams, like medical,
Yeah,
non-medical, humanities, or commerce, you know. So they might face this problem because the required teacher won't be available in the school, right? But where, you know, like all four streams are being offered to the students already, probably they are able to, you know, accept this or implement it, you know, a variety of subjects to their students. There is a Cambridge school in Jalandhar. Mrs. Deepa ma'am, she's the principal over there. So she has offered, you know, around 65 subjects to the students. So it's a great effort of hers, you know. So even she is the one, that is also the school where, you know, they have offered these many subjects. Sir, this seeks for the practical, you know, implications and implementations, I suggest. Right?
right, ma'am, right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much then. Moving ahead. So here we come to the principles of NCF. Till now, whatever we have discussed, like holistic development, inclusivity, foundational learning, building life skills, multilingualism, then technology integration, collective efforts, and flexibility. I have touched each points in my previous slides. So now we'll take it elaborately. So the first principle is inclusivity. As we all know that NCF, you know, it is built on the principle of inclusivity, which means that we have to cater to the needs of all types of learners. We have diverse learners in our classrooms, in our school. They have their individual needs, right? And the framework suggests that we have to create such a learning environment, you know, that education is accessible to all the students, regardless of their individual diversity. Next is the holistic development. It's already been discussed that the focus is on what? Not only on the academics, but on cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development. That means the all-round development, well-rounded development of the learners. Then the focus is on the foundational learning that we have already discussed, that NCF recognizes that the children need to have the strong foundation in it, the basic concepts like language, numeracy, and social skills to succeed in higher education and in their life further. Then life skills, they're very important, and too much focus being laid on the life skill in NCF. NCF recognizes the importance of life skills in today's world, and it aims to equip students with the necessary skills to navigate the challenges of the modern society. So there is a lot of discussion on the 21st century skills, the four C's, like creative thinking, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, fine. So these are the skills that are really focused on, and the teacher should try to, you know, develop these skills in the learners. The next is multilingualism that we have already discussed. It provides a guidelines, the NCF provides a guidelines how to create a multilingual learning environment in the school. And there is a focus on now, like two language policy, it's there in the junior classes, and three language policy in your middle classes, and two language policy is already in grade 11th and 12th. So that will take up further in our next slides, right? Then technology integration, the NCF recognizing the importance of technology. We all agree to that, you know, nowadays the world is technology driven. And it is very important, to integrate technology or the digital tools in our teaching learning process. So it is very, very important. So the focus is laid on the technology integration as well, right? So that we can enhance the learning outcomes. And technology integration, it also focuses on what? The professional development of the teachers, so that the teachers can use the technology to make their teaching more effective. Then comes the collective efforts. The NCF highlights the collective efforts of the teachers, educational institutions, and parents to promote the student growth. So it believes in supportive environment which are created by teachers and students will automatically improve the students' academic performance. So you all will agree to me that if there is a complete collaboration between the, parents, teachers, administrators, and the students, so with the collective efforts of all, we can definitely enhance the academic standards of the students. We can, achieve what we want to achieve from our students, learning that it should be competent. So next is flexibility. As we have discussed, there is a flexibility in subject choice. Ma'am, one of the participants asked for this, right? So here the focus is that NCF provides a flexibility in subject choice for students. In the secondary state, students can select the subjects across disciplines instead of being restricted to stream. So there are no silos, no, boundaries in the subjects. The students have been given to choose any subjects from the science stream or maybe from the art streams. They can choose for the vocational subjects, right? So there is no strict division. So now the major focus of today's webinar is we are going to talk about what are the recommendations related to curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, and teacher development. So now we are going to, till now I have taken the comprehensive view of the NCF. Now we are going to talk about the concrete, suggestions or the recommendations of the NCF that to be implemented, and what development or what approaches, what changes are there in the curriculum, pedagogy, assessment practices, and teachers development as per the NCF. So the NCF for school education, that is organized into 5 parts. It's a very comprehensive document of around 600 pages. So, and that has been organized into different parts as part A, B, C, D, E. So part A deals with the aims of school education, the approaches. Part B discusses the important cross-cutting themes. Part C focuses on the school subjects. Part D discusses the school culture and the processes. And Part E, ecosystem of the schooling. So here I would like to take a brief break and I'll ask my participants if they can share some points, if they are aware of what this deals with. Can we have a discussion on this? Yeah, I welcome the participants.
Ma'am, first I can just tell that the Part A aims of a school education means that school education aims overall development of a child. That is why the competency-based education was initiated by NCF 2020. Apart from that, a child should be a critical thinker and all the 21st century skills should be given to them so that they are not going to turn into a rote learner. They have the ability to face the real life situations.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Shweta, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, it's as ma'am said rightly that it should not be rote learning, it should be a root learning.
Right, sir. Well said.
Nitinji was saying something. Nitinji, would you like to add something? No. Yeah,
No,
Manish.
ma'am.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
All right. So let's, like discuss in brief, though it's a very comprehensive documents of 600 pages. So I know like very briefly, I'm going to touch each points. So aim of school education, it's basically is what it focuses on, what the school education aims to achieve, the objective, the goals, right? So that goals are, based on, we'll take it further in our next slides. It basically talks about the curriculum goals. It talks about the competencies or the learning outcomes, that is to be achieved at different stages of the schooling. So next is our cross-cutting themes. It's basically focuses on, school processes, and then our environmental education, inclusivity, and counseling and guidance, So these are the key areas which are being covered in part B. Then part C covers the school subjects, all the school subjects like being offered, like mathematics education, then science, social science, physical education. So different subjects which are being offered to the students at different stages of the schooling. And, what are the pedagogies, what are the assessment practices for each subjects? What are, like the competencies, the learning outcomes to be achieved in each subjects, what methodology to be used for the teaching, and what assessment, practices are to be adapted, right? So this focuses on the, like for each subjects. Part D, it shares about the school culture and processes, that what kind of culture is there, what kind of relationship exists between the teachers and the students, what kind of environment is there in the school, and journal, like processes related to day-to-day activities, the curriculum designing, making the timetable, assembly, everything is being covered in Part D, right? Part E talks about the ecosystem of schooling. So where the focus in what the professional development of the teachers, the role of the teachers, and the focus on technology. So all these are being covered under Part E. So like in our, upcoming webinars, we'll be individually handling all these, aspects separately because it is quite exhaustive. So very briefly, I have provided you the overview of how the NCF for school education is divided, and what paths, how many paths are there, right? And what is being covered in each path. So briefly, I'm going to touch about the aims of school education further. Any question till now?
Manisha ma'am, I have a question.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
is, the LCF 2020 was started in 2020. For how long it is going to be with? What is the tenure of it?
Sorry, ma'am, what is your that? It
My question
started
is
in
this:
2023.
23, but it was designed in 22, right? And
Yes.
then for how long? What is the tenure of this?
Ma'am, it is still that we, though no further, updation is there. So we have to follow because it is just we have started with it. Till now, we have, like there are many recommendations like 2 board exams that's yet not been implemented.
Yes, ma'am. Right. Okay, ma'am.
So till it is being updated, we are, it is just being introduced. So there are many areas which we have to implement yet,
Okay, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. But if you're asking about the timeline for its implementation, then it is already started in 2024, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I know that. Okay. Thank you. Very on, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So now we are going to take up the aim. As I said, that I'll touch the first part A, the aim of education. It is said the aim of education will not only be cognitive development, but also building the character and creating holistic and well-rounded individuals equipped with the key 21st century skills. This is being said in NEP 2020, para 4.4, right? So as you can see that the focus is not only on the cognitive development, but we the NEP sets the vision that we need to focus on the development of the values, dispositions, right? The character building along with, and life skills along with the academics. So that there should be holistic and well-rounded, development of the learners.
Ma'am, one question is there.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, cognitive development means?
So cognitive development is related to what your thinking skills. It is related with your thinking skills.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. That you mean teacher thinking skill or student thinking?
No,
Yeah,
no,
both.
no, students.
Okay.
So of an individual, sir.
Okay.
All right, so coming to the values, dispositions, capacities, and knowledge. So as it is said that the broad aim of education are best achieved through developing the appropriate values, which includes the traditional values of the Indian heritage, ethical and moral values, democratic values, and epistemic values. The next is acquiring the positive disposition, positive work ethic, curiosity, wonder, pride, and rootedness in India. Developing capacities for inquiry, effective communication, problem solving, and logical reasoning, creativity and aesthetic expression, maintaining health, productive work, and effective social engagement. The next is acquiring knowledge in breadth and depth, the 7 curricular areas of languages, mathematics, science, social science, art education, physical education, and well-being and vocational education, along with interdisciplinary areas, develop multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary knowledge in students. Such knowledge allows students to develop a well-grounded understanding of the world. So briefly, I would like to take up. So values basically means what? Values are what? Our beliefs, right? What is right, what is wrong, right? So it focuses on what NCF focuses on, what that we can achieve the aims of education through developing these values, the ethical and the moral values amongst our students, The next disposition is our perceptions or the attitude. So what attitude we have towards the work, So that is what attitude we have towards our country, right? So that is, we want that NCF suggests that the learner should acquire the positive attitudes and perceptions. Capacities are certain abilities or skills, we can say, that is communication skills, that the learner is able to, communicate effectively. So that is developing the capacities. The learner is, able to, the learner has the problem solving abilities, right? So those are the capacities. And knowledge is what actually the fact is, the child learns that the earth revolves around the sun. So that is the knowledge. So that knowledge is, that's a fact is being provided in different subjects, So knowledge, capacities, dispositions, and values. These are the areas, through which we can achieve the broad aims of the education. So does it make sense? Like, should we go ahead? Here's the participants.
Yes, ma'am, please.
All right. So I have a question for you. Yes, please.
Okay, ma'am, as you say that life skills are and values are the very much part of NCF, that do we have any clarity that where to introduce it? Are all the teachers during their curriculum or all the subjects they're going to give it to them, or any specific period is allotted?
Ma'am, see, value, we have to start teaching the values from the foundational stage itself, We start teaching the values to our children from a very young age itself.
No
So there is
specific clarity on it there, because when remember that when we were small, there is a period called moral values period, but
Yes.
nowadays there are no such periods, and that is why the
So
values
because
are
it is
degrading
integrated,
every.
it is, ma'am, nowadays it is integrated in the curriculum, mainstream education only. You must have noticed, like nowadays, the books, which are the textbooks, like which are designed as per the NEP 2020, the recent ones. After every chapters, there are, like mentioned that the what values are be, like integrated in that, or, this chapter is teaching what values, what life skills, what learning outcomes are to be achieved through the chapters. You must have noticed, in the textbooks that it is very clearly mentioned over there.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
And
Ma'am, may I ask which
moreover,
subject do you
ma'am,
teach, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. I teach political science.
Political science. Okay. So I suppose you follow NCRT books?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Yeah, so there also you'll find it, ma'am, that the values are being mentioned, every subject, mention that which values and which life skills, and what learning outcomes are to be achieved through this chapter.
Actually, in NCRT, grade 11, 12, this kind of things are not written in the book. Though we definitely try our best to inculcate values in our students in the different ways or giving the practical examples.
Ma'am, it is well integrated only, I suppose, in
Yeah,
our
ma'am.
system, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. That's
And
yes.
NCRT books are, like they are to be revised, they are working on it. The textbooks are to be revised as per
Yes,
NEP 2020. But
yes,
the
ma'am.
private publishers, they have already, introduced, like the core principles in their textbooks.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Anything else?
No, not yet.
Okay. So I have a question for my audience, for my participants. So which knowledge, values, disposition, or capacities are valuable, What is worth teaching? How to
Ma'am,
decide?
may I please?
Yes, please, sir.
Ma'am, see, nowadays what we feel that children, they are more in social media or all the digital tools. But then the most important thing is the how to make them social people. They are not social with the surrounding. And
Mm-hmm.
next thing is that they are not more into for a sustainable development, like the basic skills, how to make them emotionally very, very strong. Sometimes they are in the condition that they don't adapt with the situation also. So I think these skills are most important to children because nowadays you see we have to make them emotionally very, very strong so that they should adjust with the environment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Sir, yes, very well said, sir. Sir, in that case, I suggest that, we take up various activities in the schools. We take up, like celebration or different events. We have clubs, So we try to integrate this through different practices in our school system, right? The only thing is that we have to maintain that consistency. We have to keep on doing that, and definitely gradually we get the result that what we want to achieve from our learners. So I think consistency is the key component where we don't need to give up and we have to continue doing that. So through different practices, school practices, we can definitely inculcate that, right, sir? All right. So this is my question, that how should we decide what is worth teaching? Which knowledge, values, disposition, capacities are valuable? Well, so NCF has very clearly, like mentioned very specifically through a clear and precise set of learning standards. So NCF is provided with the learning standards which answers to this question. So what are the learning standards? So there is as per the NCF, there is a clear flow of, increasing specificity from the broader aim of education to the learning outcomes. The first is the curriculum aims or the aims of education, right? It's a broad vision of education, that what we want to achieve in society. The next we have the curricular goals. Curricular goals are subject specific and state specific, right? There are different stages. So as per the stages, we have the different curricular goals also, right? And similarly, as we discussed that in part C, there are subjects, school subjects. So there it is mentioned for each subjects, what are the curricular goals to be achieved, what we want our students to learn. The next comes the competencies. Competencies are basically the skills, which helps the children to face, like the challenges, the real world challenges, these are the abilities that the students need to learn, that whatever they have learned, how to apply that. That comes under competencies. And next comes our learning outcomes. Learning outcomes, they are the milestones which are on the pathway to achieve the competencies. We are focusing on the competencies, right? We want to achieve the competencies in our learners. What they have learned, they should be able to apply that knowledge. That is what as a teachers we want to achieve, and that is what the NCF suggests and recommends. And in between that path, on that path, we have certain learning outcomes that what the children can demonstrate while reaching to the competencies. So any question related to this? I request my participants to be interactive so that it should not be like a monologue. We should have more and more interactions. All right. Moving ahead. Then this pyramid shows that what is the vision of the society, which is marked in the Constitution of India. Then we have vision and purposes of education, which is marked in the National Education Policy 2020. Then we have aims of school education, which is marked in the National Curriculum Framework. And that aim of the education could be achieved through desirable knowledge, capacities, values, and dispositions. Fine. That is being further divided into the curricular areas, which includes our languages, mathematics and computational thinking, science, social science, art education, interdisciplinary areas, physical education and well-being, and vocational education. So there are 8 groups, right? So each subject or each group has the curricular aims, separate specific curricular aims, curricular goals, competencies, and learning outcomes. That this we can take up in our, upcoming webinars in detail. So today, in today's webinar, I'm just providing you with the overview. We are just touching the main recommendations of the NCF, right? Because it is very exhaustive, very comprehensive. So we'll be dealing with the different parts, in our upcoming webinars. So let's understand the linkage between the curricular aim, the curricular goals, competency, and the learning objectives. So as you can see the flow, that the curricular aim or domain, that is physical, the aim is the physical development of the child, right? So under this, there is curriculum goal, that is sensorial perception the child achieves, right? So what competency we want the child to achieve through this? That is to differentiate the shapes or the colors or the mixing of the colors. What is the result when the child gets on mixing the colors, right? So to reach that, the child is able to differentiate the different colors and can mix the colors well, that is a competency that we want to achieve. And in between, on reaching that competency, we have certain learning outcomes that the child is able to identify the primary or the secondary colors, or the child is able to create some kind of artwork. So this is the linkage between the curricular aim, the curriculum goals, competency, and learning outcomes. So all these, the knowledge, the values, dispositions, the competencies, So all these refers to the learning standards, and the learning standards had been segregated as per the 4 stages of the schooling. So the 4 stages of schooling that we have already discussed, right? That's a foundational stage from age 3 to 8, preparatory from age 8 to 11, middle stage from age 11 to 14, and secondary stage from 14 to 18, right? So let's see how the curriculum has been, what learning standards have been set. In the foundational stage, it is based on the domains of the development, the various domains of the development, like there's a physical development, cognitive development, language and literacy, then positive learning habits, then aesthetic and cultural, social and emotional development, right? So these are the different domains. So this is being set on the basis of these domains, right? The key focus on the foundational literacy and numeracy. And then 2 languages, R1 and R2, that would be introduced in the foundational stage to the students, and majorly the teaching would take place in the mother tongue. And the content for this foundational stage, see, for the Balvatika for grade nursery, LKG or UKG, we say that is basically what activity based only, fine. So more of the puzzles, toys, games, and the textbooks, the workbooks, worksheets that would be introduced from grade 1st. The next comes the preparatory stage, right? Again, we have 2 languages. Mathematics, that is for grade 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right? Mathematics, art education, physical education, and world around us, with basically we, take up under EVS for grade 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right? So there are 2 languages the child has to learn. One may be the native language and the English. Then we have mathematics, art education, physical education, world around us, and work and pre-vocational skills. Then in the middle stage from grade 6th, 7th, 8th, we have 2 languages. Yes, ma'am. Hello, do you have any question, ma'am? All right. So for the middle stage from grade 6 to 8, there are 3 languages to be taken up: mathematics, science, social science, art education, physical education, and vocational education. Then in the secondary stage, we have, it's being divided into 2 phases. Phase 1, that is for grade 9th and 10th. And then we have phase 2, that is for grade 11th and 12th. So in grade 9th and 10th, the children are going to take up all the subjects of the middle stage. Along with that, the environmental education is there, right? Which is introduced as an interdisciplinary area of study. And phase 2 includes grade 11th and 12th. So here we need to focus on, that is, there is group 1, 2, 3, and 4. So group 1 includes the languages. Group 2, that is art education, physical education, and vocational education. Group 3 has social science and humanities and interdisciplinary areas. And group 4 has mathematics and computational thinking, right? The children are supposed to choose the subjects among these groups. Group 1, it is mandatory that they have to choose any 2 languages from group 1, right? From group 2, 3, 4, they can choose the combination of the subjects that we discussed earlier also. And I have just touched it briefly, right? So further, like what subjects are included, in group 1, what subjects are there under art education, physical education, and vocational education? What subjects are under humanities or under interdisciplinary areas, that we are going to take up separately. So, like very briefly, you can see that.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
Not at all, ma'am, please.
Ma'am, actually, I want to know about R3. R3 is related to art and vocational education.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Three languages, R1, R2, and R3. What is R3?
That is languages.
Yes, ma'am. What is R3?
Ma'am, the child can, one is English, then another is their, like regional language, and the third they can study any other language, any other foreign
Okay,
language.
ma'am. Just for example, French language and all that is
They
comes
can
into
choose
our.
from that also. Generally,
Okay.
like in schools, we have, like English, we have regional language, and
Mm.
we introduce Hindi.
Okay, ma'am. Fine.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, ma'am.
you're welcome, ma'am. So as you can see on the screen that what is the new pedagogical and curricular structure that we have already discussed, starting from the foundational stage, that it is multi-level because it is further 3 years for preschooling or Balvatika, we call it, right? And 2 years for grade first and second. And basically it is a play and play-based or activity-based learning, So the pedagogy that being taken here, the learning style is what? It is basically the play-based, the kids playing with puzzles, quiz, toys, that way. And then in preparatory stage, that is a play method, discovery method, and activity-based method, right? And it is set in a formal classroom, right? From in preparatory stage for the grade third, fourth, and fifth, the NCF suggests that they should have the learning in the formal classroom setup also, right? And in middle stage, the focus is on experiential learning, right? Experiential learning, would anybody would like to touch this point? Experiential learning?
Ma'am, you're
Ma'am,
talking about
learning by
experiential
doing.
learning?
Sorry?
It's learning by
Experiential
doing.
learning? Sorry.
May I, ma'am, actually express that is the learning by doing. What we are
Yes.
showing them and
Yes.
practically what we can say ki what we are teaching them practically. Once we are just they are doing by reading, they are doing learning by writing. But what exactly we are showing them and the experiments you can say in the science we can say students are going in science lab. There
Yes,
what
ma'am.
they are doing that is called.
Yes, ma'am. Rightly said. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. So experiential learning is learning by doing, right? We try to provide the real life experiences to the, students, like they do experiments, they do field visits, So that is basically, it focuses on the amalgamation of practical and theoretical knowledge, right? And in the secondary stage, we have multidisciplinary study, great critical thinking, flexibility, and the student choices subject. I've already touched these points, So anything else, if you want me to add to this, or are you clear with all these points? We have already touched this aspect regarding the multidisciplinary study,
Yes, ma'am.
where different subjects are being, integrated. Okay, so here I have a question for you all. Let's explore further. What is the difference between multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary?
Multidisciplinary means you are adding subject or activity with other so many subjects. Like an interdisciplinary means you are doing that activity or doing the subject thing with the one subject.
Sorry, ma'am, I didn't get through it. Interdisciplinary you mentioned?
Like if we suppose social science and math are collaborating with each other and they're performing any education or any activity, that will be, I think, interdisciplinary. And multidisciplinary means if you are adding this same activity with other subjects like English plus social science plus math, that will be multidisciplinary.
More than two, ma'am. More than two means multidisciplinary, and inter means, I think, only two.
Okay. So for example, I'll discuss an example, like I'll take up an example. Suppose we have to, resolve the problem of traffic congestion. The problem is traffic congestion. Okay. We have to deal with this problem. Okay. So to deal with this problem, so we have the architects, also for designing the roads. We have, environmentalists also, right, who are dealing with the environment, because this is again the traffic congestions relate to the environmental issues also. We have economists. I am going to take three only, right? So these three are there. So they are going to suggest, they suggest the solutions of their own, right? To deal with this problem separately. Fine. And another aspect is that all three that integrate, right, to find a holistic solution. Two aspects I have taken. Okay. One is that there are, road makers, and we have then environmentalists, we have the economists, right? So they are the ones, providing the solutions to the problem of traffic congestions of their own individually, right? And another aspect is that three of them, they integrate and they are trying to provide a holistic solution to that problem. So how would you segregate? Which aspect deals with multidisciplinary and which aspect deals with the interdisciplinary?
May I, ma'am?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
I'm a little bit confused about that. But the holistic, which one will come in interdisciplinary?
Yes,
Holistic
perfectly right, ma'am.
And
Perfectly right.
yes, and the second one will be called as a multidisciplinary. They
Yes.
have worked, but the interdisciplinary is like they have taken all the aspects and they touch each and every part.
Yes. So they have dealt with the same problem from their different perspectives, different perspective,
Yes, ma'am.
and they maintain their individuality also. However,
Yes.
that is multidisciplinary, So when all are integrated, though, they are dealing with the same problem, but they have their individuality also. And interdisciplinary is that when we are integrating all and we try to provide one holistic solution to the problem. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. All right.
Welcome,
So
ma'am.
next we are going to take up the pedagogies, the methodology of teaching. So it is also being segregated as per the different stages of the schooling. Like the foundational stage, it focuses on the play-based learning, storytelling and interactive activities. The focus here is on foundational literacy and numeracy. The focus on the sensory experiences, and the emphasis on social and emotional development. Could anyone give me the example of sensory experiences? Any activity, which deals with it?
Ma'am,
Any kindergarten
touch,
teacher in the group?
feeling
Ma'am,
and
may I?
touch,
When
clay,
the child
using
has
clay.
been asked to pick up a thing and recognize the thing from the box or somewhere from the bag,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
then it is,
yes.
I think it comes under the sensory. है ना?
Right, right. Yes, ma'am. There is one more participant who wanted to answer.
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, by sensory experience, we can say that we can provide different kinds of things to the kids, and they can touch and they will tell how they feel. Means if we give a salt, or they can taste, and by the taste they can tell whether it's a salty or sweet or sour.
Very good, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for giving your input. Thank you. Thank you. So next, preparatory stage. For the preparatory stage, it has to be inquiry-based learning. So they should inquire, like it is, like how it is, what it is that we tell, right? But they should also inquire that how it is. They have discovery learning through hands-on activities. There should be collaborative projects for the students. Then there should be development of critical thinking skills and increased focus on the subject-specific concepts, because now at this stage, the subjects have been introduced, the segregate subjects have been introduced, right? And they are going to take up the learning in a formal classroom setting as well, right? No doubt, we are going to take the activity-based pedagogy in this stage as well. However, it would be, it would be play-based, but there would be a formal classroom setting for them as well. So in the middle stage, it is experiential learning that we have already touched. What is experiential learning? Then we have interdisciplinary projects. I discussed about the concept of interdisciplinary. And then the problem solving approaches and development of higher order thinking skills. that this is the pedagogy that we are going to adopt, that all these could be achieved. Now in the secondary stage, the students need to have, deeper exploration of the subject, but they have the flexibility also to choose their subjects. It should be more project based learning. They should do the research analysis. We all know that in grade 12 they have to prepare their projects, and those projects should be research based, so that should enhance their analytical skills, also problem solving skills, and it should be a career oriented learning pathway. So they should be able to, they should choose such subjects, in grade secondary, senior secondary classes, that they can choose their career, right? So our pedagogy should be such that we are able to meet the learning, the appropriate learning of the students. Now I'm going to take up, like we discussed about the curriculum, we discussed about the pedagogies, different pedagogies to be adopted. Now I'm going to take up the aspect of assessment. Now my question to my audience is, what is the purpose of assessment? Why is assessment required?
Ma'am, to
Assessment is
find the
required.
gaps between the objectives and the learning outcomes. In case if
Objectives
there is a
and the
gap,
learning outcomes.
learning outcomes of a child, yeah. So in case if there is any gap, that is, I think, should be the purpose of assessing a child.
Okay, ma'am, when you mention about the objective, what are you referring to?
Like what, suppose if I am teaching noun, right? So has the child really understood the concept of noun? And suppose if I'm going to assess the child on any activity base and the child is able to differentiate between the nouns, that should be the purpose of assessment rather than just giving marks,
Okay, so I can say that it is to measure the achievement of the student learning.
Achievement of your learning, yes. Achievement of your
Achievement
learning
of the student
objectives.
learning.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. So we try to
May I,
measure
ma'am?
the achievement of the student learning. Yes, ma'am, please.
The purpose of assessment
Not
is to gather the information about a student's learning and performance.
Sorry, ma'am, could you please repeat yourself?
The purpose of assessment is to gather the information about a student's learning and performance.
About the students' learning and performance. Okay, ma'am, thank you. Thank you for your input. Okay.
May I, ma'am?
Yes, please.
According to me, the assessment is so that we can take the evaluation and we can improve the teaching and learning, both the things. Where we are lacking, where the students are lacking. This is the main purpose of the assessment.
Yes, ma'am. Very rightly said. Thank you so much, ma'am. Very rightly said by you,
Thank you,
right?
ma'am.
So, like briefly, I can say that, may I say this way, that it measures the achievement of the students' learning, and it also gauges the effectiveness of the pedagogy that we have adapted, the teaching material that we have used, right? So, can we say like that?
We can, ma'am, but actually, if we are
So,
doing the assessment here, we come to know about where we are lacking. Not only the assessment is not only what the student is doing, exactly what we are
yes.
doing.
Yes,
Assessment,
ma'am.
we
So
can't say
basically, when I
assessment for
said
the
like
students
the
only.
classroom process, when I said the classroom, gauging the
Yes, ma'am.
effectiveness of the classroom process, the classroom process, the process includes this only, like, that how the content is being taught, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
what
ma'am.
are the,
Yes.
like lesson planning, how it was, and what teaching
Yes, ma'am.
materials and resources were used, so how effective they were, in teaching and learning,
Yes, ma'am.
which are used, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll quickly read this. Approach to the assessment. The aim of assessment and the culture of our schooling system will shift from one that is summative and primarily test rote memorization skill to one. Earlier it used to be summative and it focused on the rote memorization. It has shifted, the focus has shifted on more regular and formative assessment, which is more competency based and which promotes learning and development of our students. It tests the higher order skills like analysis, critical thinking, conceptual understanding or clarity. And the primary purpose of the assessment will indeed be for learning. It will help the teacher and the students and the entire schooling system continuously revise the teaching learning processes. Ma'am, this is your point, to revise, continuously revise teaching learning process. This is what you are focusing on. To optimize learning and development for all students. This will be the underlying principle for assessment at all levels of education. This is being stated in NEP 2020. So on the basis of this, what NCF says that this is a vision of NEP, and NEP suggests that our assessment should be regular, it should be formative, it should focus more on competency, right? It should analysis, it should do the testing of higher order skills, right? It should, test the conceptual clarity or the understanding of the students, right? So, and this assessment is not only to assess, the measure the learning capacity of the students, but also like how the teaching learning process, so that it could be revised also in case it is needed and it is not able to meet the needs of the divergent learners in the classroom. So the approach to assessment as per NCF, according to the NCF 2023, assessment can be approached as assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. Yes, very quickly, I would like to take the inputs from the participants. What is the difference between assessment of learning, for learning, and as learning? Yes, dear participants, kindly come up with your inputs.
Assessment of learning means when whatever chapter you are teaching, then you have to take a test and you have to assess. The test can be summative or formative, both. But you are going to assess that learning, that whatever I imparted, that how much children has received. So
Yes,
to measure that and it provide a feedback for your further improvement and all those things.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Further, ma'am, assessment for learning. Ma'am, you are muted.
Sorry, ma'am. Actually, it is a measure where you are getting your own feedback that whatever I have taught, that how much it is effective and what are the feedback. If the children have not got, then again you have to repeat that lesson or that some topics which are not being taught or not being understood.
Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am. Next,
All right.
Kenna.
So, yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Assessment of learning, it measures the student's achievement. It's basically, for example, the board exams, so they are assessment of learning, that a content is being taught and that is being assessed that whether the child is able to get it or not, right? So it's usually summative. Assessment for learning, that it provides a feedback for the improvement. It helps the teachers to adjust their teaching. So it happens during the learning process, right? So it is formative, it is diagnostic, and it is ongoing. During the teaching learning process, that assessment is being taken. Say, for example, some discussion is going on in the class, and the teacher asks the questions. So that's basically the assessment for learning. It is diagnostic. It helps, to bring improvement in the teaching learning process. And assessment as a learning, it promotes self-reflection and independent learning to the learner, right? So it is diagnostic again. It helps the students to take the ownership. Say, for example, they have the self-assessment, they prepared the project, and they're assessing themselves on the basis of certain checklist or the rubrics provided to them. So assessment as a learning, it helps for the promotion of the self-reflection, right? Now, so the key principle of effective assessments to make the, assessment effective, it should measure the competencies and the learning outcomes. We have talked about the competencies and learning outcomes. What are they, right? It should be formative, developmental, and the student-centric. We should it should be inclusive. We should focus on the individuality of the learners, right? Diversity in our classes, right? It should be as per the different stages, stage appropriate, and we should provide the constructive feedback to the learners, after the assessment. A constructive feedback should be provided, and it should be timely. We should not be long gap in the assessment. It should keep on going continuously. It should be formative, right? Diagnostic, right? And it should support the lifelong learning and progress. Here I would like to take up the example of, after the board examination. So these examination are for what? Certification. So that certification goes for the lifelong, So assessment across stages. There are different stages, and what are the assessment tools they are to be used in to take up the assessment different. Foundational is basically observations by the teachers and whatever artifacts, whatever they have made, created by the students. So they are the assessment tools. There is no formal, examination at the foundational stage. At the preparatory stage, there would be formative oral written assessments. It should be creativity focused, and comprehensive summative assessment would also be there at the end, when there is, like the students are going to move ahead to the higher grade. Like we take up term 1 or term 2 examination or midterm examination or final examination we take up. So they are the summative assessments, And middle stage, we have formative assessment techniques, like we provide them projects, we take up debates, presentations, experiments, role plays, journals. So different activities the teachers take up for the assessment, right? So like we have subject enrichment activities, right? As suggested by CBSE. So that is what formative assessment technique only, right? And then we have the subject specific summative assessment also at the end of the session, and in the midterm also. Then similarly at the secondary stage we have regular formative assessments and comprehensive summative assessment, that is the board examination. Now this is very, very important, holistic progress card, so this we have to maintain, and it is being introduced till our preparatory stage. Fine. So it's a quite comprehensive. It includes different areas where there is, assessment by the peer, assessment by the teachers, assessment by the parents also, right? So it is quite comprehensive, right? And it deals with the cognitive, emotional, and the physical growth also of the child. It gives the detailed report that shows different parts of a subject instead of the subject report as a whole. So within the subjects, there are different, curriculum goals, the competencies, and at what level the child is. The child is at a beginner's level, the child is, proficient or progressive, right? So this is how they are being marked in the foundational stage, right? So it looks at how students do in different activities, not just tests. So in holistic progress card, we also take up the samples of the students' work, how they are doing that. Different worksheets are there, right? So as I mentioned earlier, it includes self and peer assessment, and it's a bridge, like it bridges school-home connection for better student development. As I told you that there would be feedback from the parent side also, right? So it bridges the school-home connections for the better student development. It helps, this holistic report card helps see how a student is getting better over time. It shows the gradual growth of the child, and it it compares the growth of the child to his previous performance only. In comparison to his previous performance, we are not comparing two different students. Rather, the assessment is, we are comparing that how the child is growing over the years, right? It compares the current report card to the student's previous one and not what the other students got. So holistic progress card, it is very comprehensive, and it is already been implemented for the foundational stage, and preparatory stage also it is being introduced. The samples are available. The CBSE has also provided with a sample for holistic progress card. Now, this is very important. What are the changes suggested in the board examination? So the focus is on what? Making the examination easier and lighter by reducing the content. As we said that the content would be reduced to the core essentials, focusing on the competencies and conceptual understanding, right? And it focused sharply on competencies rather than the recounting the facts, no rote learning of the facts. And competency based questions would be there. It's already being introduced, right? offering board examination at least twice a year to ensure that the students have enough time and opportunity to perform well. The students can then appear for a board examination subjects they have completed and feel ready for, right? In future, we are looking forward that it would be like when the learner, the student is ready for the examination, they can take up the exam anytime in the session. Presently, it has suggested for twice a year, right? The best marks can be taken, and the subjects they can choose to appear once, and the sum of the subjects they can appear in the second attempt. Then we have the vocational education, art education, and physical education. So these are the thirst area actually which are being introduced in NCF, which are really well focused in the NCF, right? So, and these are the subjects that we need to offer to the students, right? So, and these would be what the assessment of these areas would be demonstration based, not the written exam based, right? So practical based it would be more of. Now comes the role of teachers in NCF implementation. As we know that the role of the teachers have changed from, being only teacher to a facilitator of the learning. Now it is NCF focuses on the child-centric. So the role of the teacher would be, to provide the clear guidelines to the students and to assess their, learning and help the students in achieving the competency, right? So, and there is a lot of focus on the professional development and the skill enhancement of the teachers so that they can perform their role in the implementation of NCF effectively, right? And again, the teachers have to take up the innovative pedagogical strategies, to achieve the holistic development of the students, to integrate different subjects, to follow the multidisciplinary approach of teaching. So the teachers have to be really, really very innovative, and they should design, different pedagogies to achieve this, right? Since the focus is on student-centric, so the teacher in the teaching methodology, in the pedagogy, must take care of the diverse needs of the students. There are students from the different backgrounds. So their individual needs should be taken care of, that these comes under the role of the teachers as per the NCF recommendation. This is very important now that we know that technology is a part and parcel of our life, and everything is technology driven. So in our education system also, we have to, take up the digital tools. So different, you might be aware of Diksha, you might be aware of MOOCs, right? So Diksha portal is there. So all these are what? These are the digital, platforms which provide the, the content or the platform for the learning. So digital platforms are there. We can use the technology in the assessment also. Virtual labs are there. So we really need to integrate the technology in our education system, in our pedagogy. Now, what are the strategies for implementation of NCF? Very quickly, I'll take up. I know that you are bearing with me. Thank you so much that we started at 7. It's already 8:30. I'll take another, 5 minutes to wind it up. So what are the strategies for implementation of NCF is pedagogical development, professional development, personalized learning, paperless approach, and optimization of digital technology. So when we talk about the pedagogical development, we have already discussed that we need to tailor the teaching methods according to the different learning stages, right? From foundational to secondary. Another thing is that we have to, for personalized learning, right? It is important that transiting to the student-centered approach, right? Taking care of the individual learning needs and the styles, right? Then we have professional development of the teachers. That's very important, providing comprehensive support and training to enhance teacher effectiveness and adapt to the new curricula, right? So professional development is very important. These are one of the strategies that is very, very important if you want to implement the NCF effectively, right? Paperless approach, digitalization has led to the paperless approach, right? for documentation and optimization of digital technology. We must integrate the digital tools in our teaching to make it effective and to achieve the well-rounded learning of the students, right? So here I come to the last slide. This is a very beautiful picture. This is the cover page of NCF for school education. So if I talk about the takeaways of today's webinar, so I suppose it is, well depicted in this picture. So now I would like my participants to give their inputs. So whatever points that we have covered in today's webinar as per the NCF, right? So it is well depicted in this picture. So very beautiful picture. It is a cover page of NCF for the school education. Yes, please, everyone please come up with your inputs. What are the takeaways, your takeaway from today's webinar? Yes, participants.
Education is not restricted to classroom learning, ma'am.
Yes.
May I, ma'am?
Pedagogical stages, pedagogical methods to teach the different stages. They
Right.
have it also indicated there in the
Yes.
picture.
Yes. So,
May I,
ma'am, we
ma'am?
talked about, yes, please.
Actually, the picture is all about the holistic development of the students.
Yes.
Here they are not only studying, even they are doing learning by practical things, learning by
Yes.
doing.
Yes, very good, ma'am. We talked about experiential learning, that you can see that learning by doing, you can see the child, with the, that you, they are planting the seeds, there are telescope, the children are over there. And we talked about, the physical development, holistic development of the students, where the physical development, cognitive development, aesthetic development, that is to be being taken care of. Then we can see that a small child with a puppy, so that teaches what? The values, the love for the creatures. Then we talked about, like art education. So we can see one child with the, stick and making some kind of, dance pose. And there is a girl, who doing painting or drawing something. So that is about our art education.
And ma'am, also the child on the wheelchair, differentiated learning.
Yes, ma'am. Inclusivity. Inclusivity.
Ma'am, one suggestion I have, if in the future we can have a webinar on the holistic report card.
Okay, ma'am. Sure, sure. We'll definitely take that, ma'am.
Because that is such a wide aspect, and I think we're all moving towards it, and the nuances of it have to be really understood because it is an assessment of the child vis-a-vis his previous work. So I think if we can have a webinar on that, it'll put everything into perspective.
Sure, ma'am. We'll definitely take that. I'll definitely consider your input, ma'am.
Brilliant session, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It's my pleasure. Any question? Any doubt? Anything that to be discussed? Any input that you would like to share? Please give your inputs.
Manisha ji, we are sharing the feedback form in the group. They will give us the feedback.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I will share with you. Okay, na?
All right, ma'am. So should we conclude it now?
Yeah, please. As you
Ma'am,
suggest.
just only one. I will take only 30 seconds.
Please. Not an
Thank
issue,
you so
sir.
much, ma'am, for powerful insight. And
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.
I would request with you or with the organizers, if, like you see, it's a quite lengthy document. NCF is a 600 pages document, ma'am.
Yes,
So
sir.
if any, like today, I got to know about even today only that there are 5 domains in this,
Yes, sir.
like you told about aims of education, then impact of cost cutting, and then school subjects. So ma'am, if
Yes,
we
sir.
can have sessions like on 2-3 domains in one session, I think that would be much better for all the educators.
Yes,
Sir, we'll
Vinodji,
have,
definitely. We will do it.
definitely we'll have the consecutive webinars, touching every aspect. See,
We will
basically,
be doing the
we have
series
this,
of webinar on this
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
On
So
Right,
this
ma'am.
is just
This
an,
was only
sir,
my
this
query,
is
ma'am.
just an
And thank,
overview. Now we have
yeah,
to
this
touch
was a
the,
crux of the, in
yeah,
nutshell, ma'am.
we
It was
have
in
to take
nutshell.
the practical aspect also.
Exactly,
right?
ma'am.
If we talk about inclusivity, so we have to see that how that has to be practically implemented. I also got the question from one of the participants, like how to do that, so that we can practical aspect can be touched in our, like series of webinars further, right? Definitely we'll look forward to that. Sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for powerful session, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Manisha ji, for such a nice and interactive and descriptive presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Twinkle ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. And we will definitely be doing many more webinars like this.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for coming to our webinar.
Yeah, thank you all the participants. I hope that it was,
Thank
like
you, ma'am.
you bear with me. I took your time, very precious time of yours you have devoted. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Please take
Thank
good
you.
care of
Thank you
yourself
so much,
till
ma'am.
we meet the
Thank
next
you so
time.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manisha ji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.